Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Wednesday morning here in the city of Philadelphia. Welcome to another Coffee Break Chat. I'm your host, James Jackson, he, they pronouns, executive producer, Light Thief Productions. And we've got a good show for you this morning. At least I think it's a good show. I'm going to enjoy it because I have some great guests from Argent Combat. And we'll be talking about their upcoming spring classes and doing in-person things safely. Title of today's show, Fascism, Selective Populism. This comes from Umberto Eco, his 1995 essay on Ur-Fascism. And he had several criteria about what modern fascism is, or what fascism means, really, because in a fascist state, this was primarily about fascist Italy during World War II. The essay was, and how fascism has evolved from there. Italy during World War II was the first recognized fascist state. Anyway, there were interesting bedfellows in Italy during fascism. You had communists, you had liberals, you had conservatives, you had all kinds of people coming together under this framework of fascism and promoting fascism in a greater or lesser extent for their own reasons. And then Umberto wrote this nice essay about how that is possible, and what the key elements of fascism are. I'd like to talk a little bit about the type of fascism, the part of fascism that he noted, which is selective populism. In his essay, this is written in 1995. It's not like this is a long time ago. He noted the possibility of a selected group of future internet and TV populism in which the emotional responses of a selected group of citizens can be presented and accepted as the voice of the people. Hi, that's what's happening all over the place. And we'll get into that with the Portland terrorist slash mass shooting, the Collegeville, Pennsylvania white supremacist, the DC upcoming DC blockade, Andy and Go, taxes, rent, and the Nkruma-Ture eviction process. But before we get into that, let's bring our guests on screen. Welcome, everybody. I have four wonderful guests this morning, all from Argent Combat. If you would please introduce yourselves and your pronouns and what it is you do, starting with Brittany.
Yeah, absolutely, James. Thank you so much for having us on. Hi, everybody. My name is Brittany. I'm the executive director of Argent Combat. We are a Philly-based organization of professionals within the stage combat and theatrical violence field, and my pronouns are she, her, and they, them.
Awesome. And Oliver, if you would please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Oliver Donahue. I'm the lead instructor. I'm a certified instructor with the Society of American Fight Directors and with Fight Directors Canada. And I use boy pronouns, he and him.
Awesome. And let's next go to, sorry, I lost my guest list, Chelsea.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Marlowe. She, her pronouns. For Argent Combat, I am a demo assistant, and I am running my business Novel Action through them. And that's a consulting agency for writers on fighting and intimacy. I am also an actor and stunt performer for film.
Awesome. And Christian.
Hello, yeah, my name's Christian. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm an actor, fighter, and friend of Argent Combat, working in as a demo assistant and stepping in as a COVID safety officer as we move towards our spring season.
Excellent. COVID safety officer. It's an interesting title, position that didn't exist 2 years ago anywhere, um, and I find it great that this position actually exists now. I actually, looking back on my career, I kind of wish that we had had like sort of like routine health and safety officers on every gig that I'd ever been on. Because there's many a time, if you don't work in theater, you don't probably know this, but there's many a time that you show up to a set or a theater, and somebody's got the sniffles, somebody's got a sore throat, or usually it's not even many a time. Usually it's the norm, and everybody kind of just works through it. But COVID is easily deadly. It's not something to mess with. So, what does a pandemic do to an industry that involves always bringing large numbers of people into a small space and making them breathe heavily next to each other? We create COVID safety officers. Tell us a little bit about what COVID safety measures you're looking at when doing things in person again.
Yeah, sure thing. I'd be happy to sort of jump in just to start. Well, in the sort of more infectious stages of the pandemic, we were receiving higher numbers. We wanted to make sure that we could still train in a more safe environment. So we started off outdoors and using quarterstaffs. And if you've never interacted with a 6-foot quarterstaff, it offers a lot of space to work with. We're not up in each other's faces. We were still masked and outdoors, and it allowed us to still work while providing that extra layer of safety.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that is kind of automatic social distancing. I'm eating off camera, by the way. I didn't get a chance to finish my breakfast, but it is the coffee break chat.
Yeah, but no, our team just decided, this was back in April of 2021 when we first started to come up with, okay, is it safe for us to work outdoors? What discipline would be best suited for this? What are some of the protocol that we're going to be adhering to? So in April of 2021, we established our Safe Reopening Committee. Christian, of course, is a member, all of our demo assistants, Oliver is lead instructor, myself as executive director. And James, the last time we chatted, we had just appointed our medical representative, Seth Rodman, who is fantastic. And if you'll pardon me, I'm pulling up his bio because he is a medical professional with an absolute alphabet soup after his name. He's fantastic. He is an RN, a BSN, an MSN, FNP student, ACLS, BLS. Certified person as well. And he and myself alike are also seeking our certification as COVID compliancy officers. So eventually we won't only just have Christian, we will also have myself and Seth. So 3 CCOs on our board, just to ensure that all of our safety protocol is empowering and enforced politely, in a gentle way for all of our students, just to make sure that every single class that we have is incredibly safe. We did just have a meeting. Oh gosh, I've lost track of time. Just last week, we had our February meeting to discuss what we're going to be doing next. Before the pandemic, we were teaching an unarmed course, which was one of the largest courses, student-based wise, that we had started to teach, and we wanted to revisit it. It took a bit of time because with unarmed, it's a bit closer range. There can be a bit of grappling, which we're going to have to discuss a little bit further. Oliver can definitely weigh in on that. But Seth and Christian alike had some wonderful input on some safety protocol that we can adhere to, just to ensure that our students can safely participate in unarmed and get their certification.
Awesome. Excuse me. What, if any, feedback have you had from students or prospective students with regard to any safety measures that you've implemented? I mean, it sounds a lot like you all have gone down the route of less availability means, less chance of having any sort of conflict there anyway. So, has there been any like pushback, like, oh, I don't want to be masked. Do I need vaccination? Do I need boosters, etc.?
Yeah, there's you get a bad faith argument once in a blue moon, but we are all like theatrical violence. The whole point is safety for performers, and this is still kind of the point. So everybody, every organized workshop, everybody I know teaching classes, the SAFD itself, when they run the national workshop in the summertime, which is coming up in a couple of months, everybody is always masked. Oh, vaccinations are required, and nobody's really gone off on a big tear about how unfair that is, or dipping into the various conspiracy theories, because we're all everybody in this everybody in the business understands that keeping each other safe is the primary focus of the business. Yeah, the performative violence is cool to watch, but if you can't do it 6 times a week and twice on Sundays, then it's not worth doing. So since we already go into it with that mindset, everybody's like, yeah, of course, why would we not get vaccinated? Why would we not wear masks even when we're vaccinated? Like, we're not going to start taking risks that we literally do not have to take. And there are a couple of people who still that's not good enough for, and are still staying away from the business, which is totally fine, because we all have our different comfort levels of how we're going to interact with other people over the next however long we stay in this primary situation. And we can make it as safe as we can, but we can't make it safe enough for everybody. So some people are choosing to still remain out, and we're not going to hold that against them.
I mean, that's the classic argument of, somebody does their own stunts versus doesn't do their own stunts. Being a stunt performer or performing any sort of stunt has an element of risk to it, and it's up to you to assess your own risk. And if you don't want to participate at that risk level, then yeah, that's entirely your own decision. I think the thing that is in popular media, and the thing that is being pushed, and this goes to the selective populism thing. This kind of selective populism of, nobody wants to wear masks anymore, nobody wants to, everybody wants their freedom. I don't think that's actually the case, and also I don't think anybody's not free in this situation. But it is interesting that how much that narrative is pushed when it's just about maintaining other people's safety. Go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, the fact of the matter tends to remain that the opinions broadcast the most are the opinions of the loudest, and the opinions of the loudest tend to be the opinions of jerks, because loud people tend to be jerks. So you don't get the opinions of the vast amount of people who are going about their lives wearing masks and getting their boosters and rolling their eyes at all of these incredibly loud people screaming about how unfair it is that they have to take the base level of decency to help other people.
Right. Like, how it's the I think about a year ago the argument came up that this is the shopping cart argument, the returning the shopping cart argument. Do you return the shopping cart to a corral when you're at the grocery store, or do you just leave it next to your car? And
return it every time, right, because I'm not a jerk.
Right.
And then I grab the one that I see that's kind of slightly out of the corral because somebody just dropped it there, and then I put that one back too.
Right. I mean, it's a simple step, and it costs you nothing. but also saves, other people. It's not going to protect you in any way, but it protects other people. So yeah, it's the shopping cart argument. The having a vaccine, wearing a mask doesn't necessarily protect you, and nobody ever said it would 100% protect you. It protects other people, and that just seems to me, I don't know. Like I said before, I think maybe I just grew up with like a grandparent who instilled different set of values than what the common set of values are for my age group. I'm 44, but I think having that set of values instilled from kind of the end of World War II era parenting, of returning things better than you find them, making sure your community is taken care of, that kind of thing. I don't know that, and maybe those values do still exist. I don't know. Maybe they morphed. I don't know. So you did mention your first spring class. I didn't track. What is your first spring class going to be? When is it going to be?
Yeah, we are going back to unarmed. What happened was we started teaching unarmed literally just before the pandemic had put everything into lockdown. So all of our previously enrolled students had gotten a good way through the course in order to test for certification with the Society of American Fight Directors skills proficiency test. And we've been wanting to return to it because unarmed is genuinely just really one of those fundamental disciplines that I personally feel, and I think the rest of our team will feel, every physical performer needs, just in order to empower themselves and to develop a voice for agency and consent, and to not get hurt or hurt others. So we're returning to unarmed on March 3rd with some of our old students and, well, not old, but previously enrolled students and and some prospective folks that have been following us for quite some time that want to get into stage combat.
Perhaps that's a new class idea. Perhaps you should have geriatric combat um, and or safety during geriatric combat. I mean, we are I am part of what they call elder millennials or aging millennials. I forget what they. Anyway. Yeah, maybe my aging is creating these memory problems. Sorry. Chelsea, we haven't heard much from you. What is your you mentioned a different part of the Argent combat organization that you are heading up, and what is this, and what do you do?
So I came to Brittany sometime last year, I think. During the pandemic, I had a few of my friends who were authors come to me asking specifically to go through their manuscripts before they went to editors to look at their fight sequences that they've written and their intimacy sequences they've written to make sure they made sense, which I was glad to do because I read a lot, and an issue I've seen lately in a lot of, especially like YA novels, is fight sequences that don't necessarily make sense, which is no one's fault because most authors don't have our background where we know, how to react correctly to getting hit or how to use a knife correctly, how to fall down, all those kinds of things. And a big issue I've seen in intimacy is the enemies to lovers trope is very popular right now, which is great, except that what's happening is a lot of non-consensual intimacy, not on purpose, just because that's when we were growing up reading books, that was kind of what we read and it was fine at the time. So I've been working with them to kind of iron out some of those things to either make it more consensual, or if that's the route they're going, make sure that there's enough lead up so people have a chance to skip those chapters, things like that. And I came to Brittany with this idea.
Yes.
And she was all about it. So we've been working together to work on putting a workbook.
Just the right nostril, the left nostril. I thought this was mentioned in her records, but the left nostril, during an exam, the other veterinarian had noticed that she didn't have good breath sounds.
Yeah, and it's been a really cool exercise. We are planning a beta test group consult for several different writer friends of ours. And, you know, as we're developing the workbook, it kind of raises interesting questions. But one of the things that we've been noticing too, particularly for film and stage adaptations of works portraying violence and intimacy, as well as writers who are creating their own original story and want to see it staged or on film. A lot of them are very hesitant to incorporate these elements and to be specific about them. Usually you'll find in scripts, in brackets, they fight or they kiss. And that specificity is a really helpful tool for a lot of performers and can really make or break a piece. And, you know, it's genuinely a huge problem when intimacy and violence aren't confronted and glossed over, because that can really compromise the performer's safety in a lot of ways. So that's one of the things that we're seeking to prevent. Oh, James, I think you might be on mute.
You know.
Oh no.
Sorry, also the broadcast couldn't hear me for a sec because I could hear me at the beginning of my phone call because I forgot to mute myself on the broadcast, and then couldn't hear me just then. Had an emergency call from my vet. Sorry, you know, like I don't have a big studio here. I have a very small studio. It's me. And therefore, when I get an emergency call from the vet, I take it, and I don't have anybody else to take it. Sorry about that. So she's fine. The cat's fine. She's just she's been sneezing for like 6 months, and so they wanted to do an endoscopy on her nose, and the vet was just saying, "Oh, well, it's gonna cost this much," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I gotta go. Sorry. Yes, it's fine that it costs money. Just do it. Figure out what's wrong with the cat. At any rate, I'm so sorry about that interruption. And now you all know lots more about my cat's health than is probably necessary. And yes, it is very cool that you're doing this analyzation of the writing for intimacy and violence. That is something that the Philadelphia area desperately needs. As some of you know, am the president pro tem of the PDC, the Philadelphia Dramatist Center. And we do a lot of work on people's writings, but we don't have any members who are intimacy or violence specialists. And so it's something that's really helpful to get from the get-go. A lot of times, you know, scripts will just be like, and violence happens. Ta-da! And then you have a 12-page script that turns into like 80-minute film because you know, you just let your fight choreographer go crazy. But yeah, that's it's important to actually write these things out for any aspiring script writers out there. It's important to actually write these things out, make them make sense, make the even, and you know, identify a trope, and if you're going to use a trope, use it for a good reason. You know, like don't just randomly use a trope. I am reminded of I don't know. None. You guys didn't participate in Romeo and Juliet in Space, a space opera burlesque in space, did you? That was just who was that? That was Ren. Ren did the fight choreography for that.
Love Ren.
Um,
Ren is awesome.
so yeah, that was a script I had Cubby write a script for me, and I was like, here's 2 episodes of Star Trek, and then I want to like morph it into Star Wars, but also have Romeo and Juliet throughout because it's a space opera, and of course it was a burlesque too because you know why not. So it ended up being the longest title ever, and but the you know we were intentionally using tropes in that script was the point, because we wanted to do all these callbacks to all these things that have always existed, and you know things become tropes for a reason. But yeah, it's always great to analyze your script and really figure out if you're not if you're not an experienced scriptwriter, you might not realize that you are using a trope or why you're using a trope, or might not really analyze why you're using a trope. And the unanalyzed part is the important part. Like you need to really think about these things, and a lot of people don't bother to think about them. So rough segue because I had that big interruption, and again apologize. We have a lot of unanalyzed positions, you know, in the zeitgeist right now. I was saying last week, I'm not sure there really is a zeitgeist anymore. It seems like we're just multiple camps of people that you know exist in a vacuum, and that there's this kind of lack of zeitgeist, which I suppose speaks to Umberto's selective populism, like this whole idea of as Oliver aptly put it, the loudmouths being the ones that get the attention. I mean, feel free to jump in at any point. And like you guys have been nice and been on mute and everything. You don't have to. It's fine to talk over me or talk over each other. You guys have seen all of the links that I posted. You know, like talking about the various things that are going on right now. What is it about like the current era that you figure creates this environment where, you know, like people like Andy Ngo or Donald Trump even just latch on to like this small segment of the population, and they're like easiest to manipulate parts, and just how does this all create these I don't want to say echo chambers because it's a word that's used too often, but these areas where these small groups have their wildest fantasies amplified into what, if you only pay attention to the media, appears to be the reality of today.
So for me personally, and this is me speaking as an optimist, I feel as though we are on the brink of an absolute paradigm shift. And these folks who are, if you will, barking the loudest are the ones that are trying to defend their territory. And the louder they are, the weaker they are, if that makes sense. So I feel like a lot of these personalities who are specifically reaching out to be reactionary and to attack rather, know that they are endangered to extinct. Hopefully, this is me speaking as an optimist.
Well, thank you for being an optimist. I tend to be a little bit more pessimistic. Anybody else have? I mean, that is a very optimistic. I appreciate the optimism there. I don't know that I agree with it per se. Not that I don't want to. Just that I, coming from our world, coming from the world of theatrics. Yes, quite often the easiest way to get an audience's attention is to make the loudest noise, or make the biggest flourish. Just to demonstrate through physicality or sound that you're the biggest badass in the world, even if you're not. What I don't think that necessarily 100% translates to reality, so to speak, or I don't even want to call it reality, but like the
Well, the other thing is you get when you make people happy, you make them contented, and contented people stop buying things, and they stop interacting with you because they're content. They're like, oh yeah, this is good. Things are going well. Let me go mow my lawn because I have to do that today. And now I feel like I'm in a good mood. And making people angry is a lot easier. And then they never leave, because the last, the last amount of time, let's say, because I don't want to put a number on it and date anybody. We are terrified as a society about being wrong in any way, and will argue the point, regardless of what it is, just so you can be right. And the way you win an argument is not by presenting your point in a way that forces the other party to agree with you. The way that you win an argument is to not stop talking until the other person shuts up, because as soon as they stop talking, you win, regardless of what your point is. And it's so easy to just keep doing that and make everyone furious on any point, and then it never stops. It's a recursive thing that you always win. And anytime anyone tries to disagree, it's just double down and dig your heels in, and it's keeps everyone looking at you.
All right,
and listening to you and telling their friends about what an idiot and what a horrible person you are, and talking about you, and the loudness is recursive.
So, I mean, maybe I'm a bad promoter in that I early on in this endeavor, in this broadcasting these coffee break chats, I deleted and blocked people who displayed actual negative intent, not just people I just disagree with, because I've had people on the show that I disagree with.
No, block people you don't disagree with. Who cares?
Yeah.
Block everyone.
Yeah.
Every time I see somebody post something or somebody say something, I say to myself, should I block this person? Yeah. And then I say, wait, what happens if I meet this person later? Because we all get super angry on the internet, right? We all just say things without regard for anything that's happened. And then, so I take a moment and I think to myself, what if I meet this person in real life at some point, when we meet people in real life, and they're a perfectly lovely, perfectly relaxed individual who are just having a bad day and just said something infuriating that me reacting infuriating was just like, hair trigger, block them. And then I think, nuts to it, block them, because who has the time?
Also, if you block somebody, what I was saying is I'm bad at promotion because I'm no Andy and Go, because I don't call out my people who disagree with me. I don't bother to argue with them. I'm not just gonna sit here and argue with a troll. just for clicks. Maybe that makes me a bad, like a bad broadcaster. I don't know, but you're right that like who actually has the time for that? Who has the time and energy to? And even if you block somebody that you're gonna see later in real life, so what? They're not going to remember that you blocked them or care, really, unless they're like somebody who lives and dies by the internet. And...
Oh, we totally live on the internet today. They'll remember. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out in the world that have blocked me on stuff, as well they should, because I can be completely insufferable.
I'm right there with you. I am a completely insufferable person, and I think I had you blocked for a while on something. I don't even remember. But
it's totally fair.
But when you mentioned something that I think is problematic, is that folks tend to seem to not block people and instead throw out bad opinions, and then when called out on those bad opinions, double down on them and then keep doubling down on them. And I think it takes you into these places where you can literally be liable for the death of somebody, and that's the case in my opinion, in a lot of other people's opinions too, with Andy Ngo. He is very popular with conspiracy theorists, especially white nationalist conspiracy theorists, people on the internet. He has a big platform. He posts on Twitter all the time. He has a podcast. He has a couple of websites, and he used to actually even be a quote-unquote reporter for a quote-unquote news organization. And I put those in scare quotes very liberally because he's neither a reporter nor was his news organization a news organization. All that being said, there was and if you don't follow left Twitter, you probably haven't heard this. There was a Black Lives Matter protest in Portland. This is a regular protest that is held, I believe, monthly, and that the Portland Police Bureau actually had started leaving to its own devices, because they ran pretty good security and they were nonviolent, and they made their marches not caused for alarm or caused for intervention. So the PPB had been kind of playing hands off, and also with a lot of the pressure from local politicians had been leaving go, and for some reason Andy decided to post to his followers that there was going to be a violent Antifa-led armed protest in Portland on that day, at that time, in that place, when it was just this same protest that's been going on for months. And one of his ardent followers decided to show up to the protest armed. Some of the traffic managers, traffic wranglers. By the way, this is what happens when you have a protest march and you don't have the support of the police. You manage the traffic yourself. I've been a traffic wrangler on a bike protest or two, and you block the traffic and you make sure people aren't going to get run over, or if they might get run over, you give them ample warning as you get run over yourself. So this armed follower of Andy approached these traffic wardens and decided to begin arguing with them, and ended up shooting 6 of them, killing 1 of them. So a person lost their life over an internet post. And I think I mean, to me, that has liability. I think the liability goes back to Andy NGO and to his incitement. And I'm wondering when do we start following that line of liability? There was Alex Jones was held liable for his posting, his internet stuff. When do we start, making this a regular thing? When do we hold the people that are inciting this stuff?
As soon as they become unprofitable.
They're never going to become unprofitable. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's the answer. Like, things will stop and change as soon as guys like Alex Jones are not profitable anymore. But as long as they're making a bucket of money, doesn't matter, because you can pay off liability lawsuits. You can settle out of court without acknowledging guilt. There was just a story where the Sandy Hook parents settled with Remington, and if I haven't read all of the stuff coming out, but
actually,
I would assume that they did.
No, that was actually relatively famous for the Sandy Hook parents wouldn't allow it to be a closed. No.
Good. It shouldn't.
Yeah. Closed settlement. They I don't think they assumed liability in the settlement anyway, because that was a bridge too far. But I think
but as long as the money you have to pay to settle with the survivors is less than the money that is generated by saying inflammatory and ridiculous things, this is America. It's not going away.
I mean, is Alex Jones still profitable?
He's still saying things.
Is
still
he?
Podcasting.
I mean, I would consider him less popular and profitable than even my channel. I don't know, maybe. I get. All right, so then let's go with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, cost Spotify a couple $1 million. Is that still profitable? Is that the way to end this? I don't know.
Yeah. The only way anything gets done is if somebody doesn't get rich off of it anymore. And conversely, the only way anything gets done is if somebody gets rich off of it. So if you want inflammatory people that are inciting violence to go away, somebody's got to get rich off of the fact that they go away.
Who gets rich off the fact that somebody goes away, though?
That's an excellent question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Chelsea. You can go ahead. I saw you on mute first.
Never mind.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. It is a really fascinating thing to examine, not just from a socio-political standpoint, but also from an economical, because we're in a capitalist environment. But it is fascinating to see. I mean, I'm glad that Joe Rogan lost that platform, because when it comes to these characters who develop their own or establish their own prominence based on, sorry to wax poetic or speak purple here, but to establish their prominence based on planting false flags within soil that is covered in American blood based on their own reactionary calls. It's a good thing when they lose platform. They need to stop talking. We all do have a right to free speech, but there are consequences when you say things that can incite insurrections, for example.
Free speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. It's a trite saying that has been all over the place, but it's facts. It's true. Like, you can say whatever you want, and then if someone dies, you should probably be responsible for that.
Well, I mean, we covered free speech has consequences pretty extensively last week, but just as a refresher, free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences is a trite saying, and a lot of people have pushed back on it, saying it doesn't mean anything. What it means, for those that are too goddamn dense to admit it, is that everybody faces consequences for everything you say, regardless of your ability and freedom to say it. I face consequences for everything I say and do. So do you, so does everyone else. And, you know, it's not cancel culture to be called out on saying or doing a dumbass thing, or being a white supremacist in public. You're free to be a white supremacist in public. There's lots of them. There's lots of people who, I can't even remember the one guy's name right now, you know, who show up, who have their own very popular podcasts that make a lot of money, who say white supremacist things freely, and even if they got canceled off of Spotify, they would still have the freedom to say whatever the fuck they want on their own goddamn website. Anyway,
Yeah, freedom of speech means the federal government cannot imprison you for saying things.
Right.
That's it. That's what freedom of speech means.
Right.
Doesn't mean that everyone else has to listen to you. Doesn't mean that your network can't throw you out. Doesn't mean that you have a carte blanche to say literally anything at any time and have everyone agree with you. It means the government cannot imprison you for saying things like, hey, federal government sucks.
Right. No.
That's what freedom of speech is,
I mean,
and that's the end.
We can say fuck Joe Biden till the cows come home. And guess what? Left-leaning people will literally say fuck Joe Biden. I have said it before myself. Like, Joe is not doing a good job on several key issues that are important to me and other constituents like me. So yes, let's go, Brandon. I don't even need to codify it, but you know, like, you have the free.
I mean, you kind of do though, because like it could be a lot worse. And I know the lesser of two evils is not a great position to be in, but when one of the evils is cartoonish super evil.
Well, when one, so this is a good point. When one of the evils is cartoonish super evil, like, why do we all of a sudden even need to qualify this? Like, what, like, if you're at cartoonish supervillain evil level, how is it we've entered a time and space where I have to prove that to you? Like, I don't understand. Like, how we entered a time and space where when cartoonish supervillain evil, who today, after the invasion of a sovereign country by a megalomaniacal leader of the Russian Federation, proudly supported that invasion of the Ukraine with a tweet saying that Putin is brilliant and this is the best move he could have done. Like, how do I have to prove to anybody that is like the epitome of should not be in office anywhere representing anyone in politics? Sorry. Tangent.
No, it's all good. And I feel like a lot of us are on the same page of just how the hell did we get here? How did this happen? How did we put a cartoon in office? How do these ridiculous people have positions of prominence? And I do second Oliver in that somebody is profiting from them being in a position of prominence. The only counter to that is if they were to lose prominence and people are still profiting off that, that probably only means that they found a substitute of some kind.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, you know, for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades, the, you know, choosing the two-party system we live under has always been a choice between two evils, because corruption is rife at most levels of politics and will remain so, because that's the way the system is designed, because the people that can end corruption are the people writing laws. So why would they end profitable corruption loopholes for themselves. But, you know, somewhere along the way, you know, you have two fairly corrupt organizations, and one of them just decided nuts to it. Let's just be white supremacists again. And then it's like, yeah, we're still rife with corruption, and that's still a bad thing. And there's still ways you can end corruption and get things better for people. But maybe let's not trust the white supremacists to do that, because there's no way that's going to happen.
So, one of the arguments that I've seen, one of the arguments that's very popular and popularized in this way of a select group, the selective populism, is that, you know, white supremacy isn't a thing. There's still a lot of, yeah, well, I mean, even I'm referencing Twitter a lot this week because I spend a lot of time on Twitter reading. It's actually a really good news source. There's a lot of journalists who post there first before they even post their article. But there's and there's also easy access to literal researchers in things like white supremacy or violence, or really anything. I just ran across an expert in the Ukraine, who happens to be a person of color, who has her PhD and several other accreditations with regard to Eastern European politics. And, you know, you have easy access to all this stuff, and yet you have also the selected group being pushed, and I don't know whether it was unintentional, or whether it goes back to your point, Oliver, of it's profitable, but the selected group of idiots gets promoted higher than the groups of very knowledgeable people that are all over the same platforms. You know, the white supremacists get, you know, can brigade, and the word brigade here means to jump into somebody's chat or mentions or topic and repeatedly respond in a frivolous way. Can brigade a acknowledged expert in the field of white supremacy and radicalization of the United States, and can act like the honk honk meme doesn't mean anything. Can on equal footing promote the Heil Hitler meme as if it isn't a bunch of Nazis. So I get frustrated. I guess there is a profit motive there. You know, obviously Twitter profits more on engagement, and those people are engaged more and engaging more. So they can show more ads and be shown more ads, et cetera, so on and so forth. How do you divorce that though? How do you divide that? How do you make that unprofitable, other than just, you know, simple pushback, simple regulation, something like that? You know, is there something that people could do to create an environment where this isn't the case, where you know, we have the upcoming quote unquote trucker, and I seriously, I'm only using the word trucker at the moment because that's how it's being played in the media. It is not a trucker convoy. There are no truckers involved, or maybe one. This convoy to go blockade DC, starting in central Pennsylvania next week. you have things like that, and it's intricately related and inseparably entwined with fascism and white supremacy, and yet nobody bothers to acknowledge that. Like, why is that? Why does that go unacknowledged? How does that go? How does that make it into the media? How does the quote unquote protest make it into the media when it's a terrorist action, and not get acknowledged as a terrorist action? I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know that I see the profit. Go ahead.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Oliver, you can go first.
No, go for it.
Yeah, when it, Lord, how do I phrase this? Just contemplating the blockade and everything. The only way to, well, maybe not the only way, but one way that I've, a person of privilege, have been finding success in deplatforming these folks is to just block them and to hit them in the wallet at every opportunity, just to ensure that their platform, that soapbox that is so precious to them, that gives them prominence, that gives them media focus, is completely demolished. Again, this is coming from a place of privilege, but it's been effective so far. Speaking on Argent Combat, that's something that we've been doing from the get-go. We monitor every single post that's been put on our page in our private student group, and if there's somebody who is saying things that are problematic or reactionary or, God forbid, even attacking our students, like, no, they are blacklisted, and we are going to reach out to the rest of our community to ensure that they know this person, they're, I don't want to say in essence dead to us, but
well, I mean,
maybe
it does start with the subcultures in smaller communities. The perpetrator of the violence in Portland, is that, no, that's, sorry, the perpetrator of the violence, in so much violence going on. There was Portland, there was, I mean, just in the last 2 days, there's been Portland, there's been Collegeville, Pennsylvania, there's been up in New England, also begins with a P. Shoot. Now I forgot it. Anyway, but so much violence in the last few days that it's tough to keep up. Like, I can't even keep it all in my head. Anyway, the perpetrator of the violence in Portland was identified, and his information released to the public not by the Portland Police Bureau, because they defended and made private his information and actually created this narrative that he's a quote-unquote homeowner, and instead, you know, a group of furries, a subculture who likes to dress up in costume as animals, and identified him and made public the fact that, yeah, he's been like this for decades, and we were all concerned about him.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but you know, that's been something that I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because that's been something that I've seen very prominent. We cannot forget what the BTS fans were doing during the election year.
Right? Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah, BTS fans, the Korean supergroup fandom, you know, managed to you know, affect change in their own way as well by, you know, blockading and brigading Donald Trump rallies. Maybe, but yeah, maybe the subcultures are where this change starts to happen. You make sure that you know, people like Polyba and Benjamin Smith are ejected from your community, and are not allowed to affect your smaller community. Yeah, maybe that is where it starts. I don't know. I wanted to also really quick talk about the Republican tax plan that was released as their platform yesterday. This is released by Governor Greg Abbott of Texas. He released a quote unquote Republican platform that literally says nothing about anything other than raising taxes on the lowest 50% of Americans, the lowest 50% of income earners, and cutting welfare, and debating whether it's a good idea to continue paying the national debt. So yeah, great plan. All ideas that are bad. Let's not go with that one. I don't know how you release that as an entire platform, but to the point, I did see one person question, is it true that the lowest 50% of incomes in the United States, or half of taxpayers, don't pay any taxes? No. Not to presume here, but we're all working artists, so we are usually of the working poor. When most of us file our taxes every year, we don't get any, don't owe any taxes. This talking point comes from Mitt Romney, who identified that 47% of his constituents didn't pay any taxes. It's partially true. That 47% of that 47% of people don't pay any taxes. What is actually true is that we all pay taxes, because we pay taxes on everything we buy or watch or read or eat. I think the only thing that's not taxed is breathing, and I'm sure they're going to figure out how to do that. The sad portion of this is the reason that people, that half of the population doesn't pay much in taxes is because, or isn't liable for any federal income taxes. It's because they're below the threshold for what is considered income earning in the United States by the IRS. So they earn less than what it costs to live, therefore.
Yeah, it's a weird flex to say that 47% of your constituents are too poor to have to pay federal income tax.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree. That's a weird flex. I'm not exactly sure where he's going. And nationally, the numbers aren't any better. Nationally, the numbers are. Oh yes, I did. I researched these numbers to provide a response, and nearly 40 million, 38 point something million people of 138 million tax filers in the United States for the last year paid zero. We're in the 0% federal income tax bracket. There were a total of 60 million, so nearly half, that were under the 15% tax bracket. So yes, less than half of the population pays 97% of the taxes into federal income taxes every year, but that's because they earn money, and the rest of the population doesn't. You know, like.
Yeah, but it's easy to be really mad that poor people don't pay any taxes because they can't hire lawyers to sue you for defamation. And that's a glib way of putting it, but
I mean, like, you would think Donald Trump couldn't afford any more lawyers either, because isn't he like the poorest rich person?
You don't get rich by spending your own money, but like it's easy to slam on poor people because they're not watching the internet all the time And
No, they're trying to earn money so that they can actually
and also
live.
they're used to being slammed on all the time because everyone has been doing it forever. But, you know, say something horrible like people who make $1 million a year should probably pay some of that in taxes. Oh, then you got to talk, because then the people that own things are going to get mad at you. And when the people that own MSNBC and Fox and CNN and any other news source are mad at you, then they're going to talk about you and people get to listen to that. And nobody gets mad when you say, let's tax the poor people more, because they don't pay anything. They're just leeches on society. Nobody with a platform gets mad at you for saying that.
All right, I have
nobody with a platform is poor.
I have a very small platform, and I wouldn't consider myself poor, but I get mad. I get mad when people are like, tax the poor people. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any goddamn sense.
And again, these are glib statements and hyperbolic statements.
Right. But I mean, like,
it feels good to be angry.
Yeah. Well, I'm angry at the wrong people, apparently, to be popular and or make money. So, it is 11:06, and thank you for sticking around for an extra few minutes to talk taxes with me. I do want to recognize the time, and I appreciate you all staying around, and I appreciate you guys chatting with me today. It's been an interesting day. I hope you all enjoyed it. Do any of you have any last thoughts, any last things that you want to plug, anything that you need to say before we go?
I guess it's a weird follow-up, but for any folks that aren't familiar with Argent Combat and our work, again, we're a Philly-based organization of stage combat and theatrical violence. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Argent Combat, and www.argentcombat.com. If any folks are writers who are interested in novel action, please feel free to reach out to us as well. Let's try to make the theater community a safer place together. Again, me being a cinnamon roll optimist person after
cinnamon roll optimist.
I am sweet and soft. I don't know what to do.
Let's make that a new political party. Cinnamon roll optimist. It's brown on the outside, brown on the inside. There's some white bits, and it's sweet and soft.
We're all just coming together to be sweet and wholesome. Okay, can we just do that?
Got it.
I will make a flag or something. I don't know.
What would it would be a cinnamon roll in the center. I'm picturing this, maybe with like the little center bit sticking up. But it instead of "don't tread on me," don't ice on me. I don't know.
That can have a lot of different connotations. So let's not do that.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be crass, but yeah, let's keep the icing and frosting out of it, just to avoid any misconceptions about our party.
About our platform. We don't want random icings.
Oh God.
All right. Thank you so much again for joining us. I really appreciate it. And you are all welcome on any week. The link is always the same. So if you see some topics coming up and you wanna participate in the discussion, feel free to jump in. And I will obviously have you on again the next time you need or want to promote something. Thank you for joining us. And I'm gonna go to just me and let you all sign out. Have a good day, everyone. And if you are a Philly artist, theater, film, anything really, even if your medium is just paint, murals, what have you, the spoken word, happy to have you on. Please get in touch. Submissions at light-thief.com. Meg or I will reach out to you. My associate producer Meg Angelino fields and schedules all of my guests and does a great job at it. And so, yeah, if you would like to join us here to talk, to present your upcoming piece, or to just chat, feel free. A few things we didn't get to talk about. The Nkruma-Ture eviction thing is interesting. I highly suggest you look it up. It has a lot to do with tenants' rights. Recently in Philadelphia, a housing activist was almost illegally evicted from her home because her apartment, which was part of a house, was sold, and the new landlords didn't honor her lease. It went well because she's a housing activist. She had connections within both politics and the legal community, and was able to get a judge to rule in her favor. And she will be finding new housing at the leisurely pace of 30 days. It's not leisurely, and we can get into that another time. But it is an interesting thing. And, you know, with regard to white supremacy not existing, Collegeville, PA is maybe 20 minutes from here on a good traffic day. It's just past King of Prussia. And a man, I opened this earlier and then closed it. I apologize. A man was filmed punching his name is Michael James Strickland, was filmed cursing out and punching a young black woman in the course of her just working at a gas station, convenience store, and he threatened to quote unquote hang her, and then also called her several racial epithets. And then was caught on film and arrested and charged. But yeah, white supremacy still exists. It's still popular. It's still happening, and it happens here, there, and everywhere. Anyway, thanks again for joining us this week. Tune in next week. We'll have another episode for you Wednesday morning, the 2nd of March. Looks like we'll have Jessica Noel with Humble Materials and Philly Pack talking about Medea. And I hope to see you then. Please, everyone, have a good rest of your week. And, you know, try and enjoy yourselves out there. And so talk to you soon.